When you look at the world around you, do you see it through a lens of scarcity or sufficiency? That's what I want us to think about this morning. How do we see the world? Because how we see the world impacts how we live in the world. And to do this, we're going to feed some cats, we're going to make a sandwich, we're going to talk about some fish, but first, you need to watch this.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Go!
Did you see the moonwalking bear? Okay, we'll get back to that in a little bit. But first, my cats. My wife and I have two cats, Whitman and Wendell. This is Whitman. He's our older cat. He just turned 4. And this is Wendell, the not-so-little brother. Every morning I wake up and I feed them breakfast, and they approach breakfast with 2 different mindsets. Sufficiency, scarcity. Whitman waits patiently, standing there waiting for me to provide his food, and he slowly eats it. Wendell is a shark at my ankles, desperate for the first bite, and the minute I set his bowl down, he devours every bite. In fact, when Whitman finishes, Wendell will jump up and eat whatever's left over, licking the bowl completely clean. Sufficiency, scarcity. Whitman, Wendell. Because when you see the world through a lens of scarcity, you will grab at every bite to eat all you can. And when you have a lens of sufficiency, well, you think, I don't need to be in such a rush. I can stop and pause and enjoy every bite. Now, all this talk about eating food has me a little hungry, so let's go upstairs and make a sandwich. There's a story in the Christian scriptures, specifically the Gospels, and the one I like is in the Gospel of John, where Jesus is in front of a huge crowd, 5,000 men. Unfortunately, the Christian scriptures omit the women and children from their official numbers, but okay. And so there's thousands, probably 10,000 people gathered. They're hearing Jesus talk about peace and love and justice and all the things that Jesus talks about, and they get hungry. Jesus' disciples come to him and say, hey, the crowd's getting kind of hungry, and a hungry crowd turns into a hangry crowd, and that's just not a thing we want to have on our hands right now. And Jesus is like, well, why don't you feed them? And they're like, how do we feed 10,000 people when we only have our own lunch? And there's this boy who brings his lunch and says, hey, I've got some fish and some loaves of bread. Maybe, Jesus, you could use this, and maybe that'll help. The disciples are like, what is this small meal from this poor boy going to do to feed 10,000 people? Now, Jesus takes the bread, and he takes the fish, or in this case, the tofu plant-based deli slices, and he prays, he gives it to his disciples, and he says, share this with the crowds. And the next thing you know, everyone has enough. In fact, some of the stories in the Gospels talk about there being 12 baskets left over, which, let's be honest, is more of an allegory for just abundance. There's a whole lot left over. So what's going on in this story? Let's make this sandwich really quick, and then we'll go talk a bit more about it. Now, when I grew up, I was taught this story like it was some kind of magic trick. Like Jesus snapped his fingers and suddenly this little meal turned into 1 billion meals. Well, if that's the case, why didn't Jesus just snap his fingers and end systemic hunger issues all around the world, huh? What I think's going on is actually more miraculous than some cosmic magic show. This young boy shares what he has. And suddenly the thousands of people gathered, they realize maybe they can share what they have. It took this one person modeling sufficiency, modeling, I have enough. In fact, I have enough to share. that everyone else could shift their mindset from scarcity, clutching their own, and they could give to the people around them. When we share what we have, we realize there is more than enough for all of us. And that, inviting people to move from a paradigm of scarcity to a posture of sufficiency, that's the miracle. Because suddenly people who held what was theirs gave to those in need. I don't think we can wait around for some cosmic magic show to fix all of our problems with the snap of a finger. I think we need to realize that we are the ones we've been waiting for. We need to open our hands, shift our posture from scarcity to sufficiency, and realize that what we have is enough, is more than enough. And when we share it, we realize that everyone can have what they need. But we're often swimming in these waters of scarcity, unaware of our white-knuckled grip on the things that are mine. It's like two young fish swimming along one day, and they pass along by an older fish. And he says to them, "Hey boys, how's the water?" They swim past, and then they look at each other and they go, "What the hell is water?" When you're swimming in it, you often don't even recognize it. It's as if you're wearing blue-colored lenses and the whole world is blue, but it's all you know, so you just think that's the world. We need moments to pause. We need communities to confront us, to journey with us, to help us move from scarcity to sufficiency. We need to open our eyes, to adjust our prescription, to see the water all around us. Here's a bit more about the water that we don't always know we're swimming in. There's enough food produced to feed 1.5 times the current global population. However, nearly 25% of that world population experiences food insecurity. And here in the United States, 14 million households have limited or uncertain access to food. And 1 in 7 children don't know where they're going to get their next meal. In the Atlanta area, food insecurity can be as high as 25% in some counties, often just outside of the reach of public transit. Or as Brittany Packnett tweeted the other day, we need to replace the phrase food desert with food apartheid system. Why? Because desert implies an accidental, almost natural occurrence, when what is true is that the degree to which various communities have access to healthy food is by design. There is more than enough. That's true when it comes to the food in our world and in our communities. That's true when it comes to the things in our lives, the gifts that we have to share with others. There is more than enough. We don't need to cling so tightly to the cycle of wanting and getting and having and keeping. We can open our grip and share what we have and realize that we can all have what we need. There's abundance if we just open our eyes to see it. Abundance is a moonwalking bear. Abundance has been here the entire time, but we're too busy counting passes that we completely missed it. Abundance is all around us if we would only change our vision and reorient our posture to join this movement of love and justice and abundance, offering what we have to the world around us. Now you might think, okay, I can start volunteering when I have some extra time. Or I'll start giving a little more when I have some extra income. Well, that's not how sufficiency works. That's still scarcity. Sufficiency says you start volunteering now and you realize you have an abundance. You start giving now and you realize you have an abundance. You have all you need. You have more than you need. This is not only going to meet the needs of the people around us, we can feed our every need. Start with love. That is the seed. We can feed our every need. That's literal, feeding people who need food, but it's also spiritual, emotional, the way we are fed and filled by the ways we shift our posture and open ourselves to give and receive. So how do you see the world? Through a lens of scarcity or sufficiency? When we change our prescription to see the world through a lens of sufficiency, we realize that abundance is all around us, just waiting for us to join in. Look around. You have more than enough. Always have. You just didn't notice until now. Amen.